Mm-mm.
Good evening, guys. Today we're gonna start with the presentation, and our topic is about increasing food price in Canada. And our group, Dharmesh, is going to represent this presentation regarding increasing food price in Canada. So basically, we took this this topic from the news, which the Alexandra May Jones has given in its report in 2023. So in this report, we are going to tell about the increasing prices of food in Canada. So basically, the food price are increasing from 5% to 10%, 5% to 7% in 2023, which is really a very great hike regarding the food prices. And therefore, in this study is very essential for the society where the food is very essential part for the survival in Canada, or we can say in all over the part of the world. So now the average spending of the Canadian has rose to 100 Canadian dollars per year. So from this, we can conclude that basically the price of food is been increasing from 5% to 7%, and this data has been taken from the Canadian Report 2023, which is published in recent month. So basically, what happened that there are many factors that leads to that contributes to increasing price of food, and the factors are basically the inflation. The food inflation is due to the Ukraine conflict. Number two, it is basically due to the climate change, and the third one is due to labor shortage. So basically, we have taken all this report and the data from the CPI report, which we have taken from the CPI report, which was published in April 2023. So I request my team members to continue further. So they're going to talk about the demand and supply part. They will explain how the food price increased and how the demand supply varies with the increasing price of the food. Thank you.
Hi. So as Amanpreet said, that we have taken the topic of food prices increase in Canada. So now let's just look at graphically in applying the concepts of economics, how the increase affects the supply and why the price increased. So here we are looking at the in the graph we can see that the demand is constant because everybody needs food, like how earlier times, even if the price increases, so we have kept the demand as constant. And here the price, since the price is increased, the supply is not increased. Because of the factor the supply is not increased, so we have hike in prices. So now let's look at, because the supply increased, the demand curve is actually moves to the left. And let's look at factors like I'm elaborating what Amanpreet said, that why the supply curve shifts towards the left, because there are price factors, non-price effects, and price factors which has affected the supply. So the non-price effect, Melton, can you move on to the next slide? Yes, the non-price factors which have included the supply curve is the consumer preferences and geopolitics. And if you look at the price factors which has affected the supply curve is the climate change, currency fluctuations, and labor shortage. In this graph, we can see how the supply shifts towards the left, because there is a labor shortage, so there is no enough production, and because of this the price increases. The supplier increases the price for to serve the masses, and the quantity also is decreasing because of there is no enough supply. And why, if we have to look at the factors, is like mentioned, the higher labor costs, Ukraine war effects, and weather conditions. The next graph please. Okay. So I also like to mention one more point to my analysis. So what happens when the price of food increases? The government interferes and introduces policies to the suppliers to decrease the cost. And that's when, in this case, the government does this because they wanted to increase the supply. When the supply increases, the supply curve moves to the right. Now, as per analysis to the article, let's see the forecast, like how the food prices would increase based on each food product in Canada, which will be followed by Vijay.
Okay, thank you, Sajini. So, as per my friend said, Sajini said, how the other factor react basically. So, I will talk about the demand factor, which is very vital part in this project. Like demand factor, basically, some here's some specified elements or factors which influence the demand in the food prices. Like it occur when demand for goods and services change even though the price didn't. It depends upon the demand basically increased and decreased depend upon the some other factors. So Melton, kindly please move on. Here a shift in the demand curve occur when a determinant of demand other than price changes. So here we having a show some like a pictures like here like some factors like income of the buyers, consumer trends, expectations of future price, the price of related goods, or the number of potential buyers. All these factors are basically directly proportional to the demand curves. For example, if the income of the buyers will be increased, then definitely they having a lot of money and they will purchase a lot of things. Then definitely the demand curve will be shift. And I will be more clear with the help of the diagram. So next, please. Here the demand curve shift left. So how it is basically shift to left? Here we can say that in the diagram, like firstly, demand curve shift to left. It means we having a less of food item demanded because it happened only in during recession when people having a low income or less money and they having a less option to buy because they have to manage their expenses. Even the price didn't change, so here the demand curve shift to left. Here we can say that we having a q is basically a quantity, and when it shift to left, then we having a new quantity, basically a q1. Please next. Here we can clearly see that how the demand curve shift to left, and it basically when the economy grew, when the persons or the people or the consumer having a lot of money, when they having a lot of options to buy, then they basically buy the lot of things in a quantity, then the demand curve shift to right, and it directly basically relate with the price. If the supply of the that quantity or that food items will be increased, then the price can't be changed. But if the price or basically of that things will be same or shortage, then definitely demand curve directly relate to the price, and the price may be high in future. So it was basically the my content, and then I request to Miss Amandeep Kaur to kindly move on to our next on content. Thank you.
Hi, I would like to talk about food inflation. With prices rising along with inflation in Canada, I would like to put some evidence that I have taken from the Canadian Report 2023. As put data of the Canadian report, it has been mentioned that the varieties of food that are affected due to food inflation, like in case of bakery, the price of bakery has been increased from 5% to 7%, which includes the bread and bun, which is essential part of the life. Apart from this, the price of meat has also been increased from 5% to 7%. Uh, Moreover, 96% Canadians are basically non-vegetarian and they prefer to eat non-veg. So the survival is very difficult for them. Thirdly, then the dairy product has also been increased from 5% to 7%. You can see on the my table, and this sector is also affected by the food inflation. So this has affected many people of Canada. Now Canadians are not buying food that much because the average price is becoming more and more. Then if these crises continue, this can lead to a disaster, not only to the not only to the economy, but it also affects the human's life. Canada has very harsh weather, so people are mostly dependent on the meat. But due to the increased price of meat, they wouldn't like to purchase the meat. Melton, please move on the slide. With price rising are forcing grocery shoppers to change habits. It's been hard. There is with prices rising along with inflation in Canada, some 40% of shoppers are focusing on sales and deals more than before when buying their groceries. A new report from Dalhousie University's Agri-Food Analytics Lab found that 80% of Canadians surveys believe food prices are higher than they were 6 months ago. As a result, 2 in 5 people said they have changed their behavior at the market over the past year in order to save money. Thank you. Now, my rest of the information my friend Melton will share with you.
Yes, now in my part of this presentation, I would like to give you some more detailed information about the rising food price due to the increased input cost. Russian invasion of Ukraine, and the poor weather in production regions. Let's start with the rising input cost. This is the data that we took from the food price report in 2023. In this report, in this graph, we can see that in all the provinces in Canada, there is almost 11% of rise in food prices, and it's expected to see food inflation increases across the country in 2023. Higher food prices will likely be due to the rising cost of inputs for food and transportation costs. Some of these increases include the cost of crop inputs, for example, fuel, chemicals, and fertilizers, which have increased by 50% or more. All provinces could see price increases of up to 7% next year. The next one is about the Russian invasion of Ukraine. This is the other factor that affects the increased food price in Canada. According to the data that I found in the Canada government website, Russia and Ukraine are respectively the first and the fifth largest global exporters of wheat. The invasion of Ukraine caused uncertainty in global wheat markets, resulting in price volatility. When we have a look at the graph, we can see that the price of wheat began to rise in December 2021 when concern of war between the two countries gained momentum. Following the Russian invasion in February 2022, prices for cereal products have increased by more than 11% year over year for 8 consecutive months. Consumer prices for cereal products remain elevated in October, almost 20%, as the conflict increased. When we talk about the poor weather in production regions, we can see that this chart as an example. This chart is the example of the meat products that purchased from the stores in Canada. In 2021, the Prairie provinces experienced a severe heat wave and drought conditions, contributing to high prices for meat, particularly beef and grain products. Farmers were unable to use free grazing as a feed source for beef cattle amid drought conditions. Similar conditions in some producer regions elsewhere in the world resulted in a steep rise in demand for animal feed amid reduced grain outputs, making it more expensive to rear livestock. Internationally, heat waves in agricultural producing regions have elevated the prices of imported food consumed in Canada. These conditions contributed to higher prices for meat at the grocery stores. Overall, increased input costs, Russian invasion of Ukraine, poor weather conditions, and the labor shortage are very significant factors that affect the rise in food prices.
To wrap up, I would like to say that the inflation rate has been increased to 10.3% till now. So therefore, the inflation rate is increasing day by day. So this thing needs to be controlled by the government. So the government should take the major steps so that they can reduce the inflation rate. Because right now the winter will come soon in the Canada, and therefore we all know that the weather of Canada is very harsh. So this can impact the life of the people. So for now, the government should produce should deduct the taxes of the people so that they can easily buy the meat or the dairy products, which will definitely help them to enhance their growth. And therefore, this will contribute in the economy as well as this will automatically contribute to the society. So for the government, these safety measures must be taken. So apart from this, the other companies can set up their production houses in the Canada where the government can allow them to produce their food in a very low price. So this will automatically help them to reduce the inflation. So this is the final PPT, which basically was on increase in food price in Canada. So thank you.